What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel, where we bring you experts from various industries to share their insights and the knowledge. Today, we have a very special guest, Daniel Fernandez, an Amazon advertising expert talking to us from the Sunshine State, Florida. I recently had the pleasure of catching up with Daniel and was blown away by his expertise in the field of Amazon PPC. With years of experience helping sellers grow their businesses through Amazon advertising, Daniel has a wealth of knowledge to share with us. In this episode, we'll dive deep into his strategies and tactics for optimizing Amazon campaigns, discuss common mistakes to avoid, and get his thoughts on the future of Amazon PPC. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from one of the best in the business. All right, welcome Daniel to the show. For those of you that didn't hear about you, why don't you give a little background about yourself and who you are and how you actually got into the Amazon FBA space?
Hey Tomer, nice to chat with you. I started in the industry about 8 years ago. For the very first year, I started selling, and I failed miserably. Launch a product, ran out of stock. It sold really well. We put a lot of love into it, and it ran out of stock. Then restocked again, sold out again. The last time that we restocked, couldn't rank again. So at that point, decided to start my agency. And 7 years later, haven't really looked back. This is taking me around the world. Lived in China, Indonesia. Worked with some good brands there, and we're all about Amazon. And also Walmart.com, marketing strategy management.
Beautiful. So I guess you do it for such a long time. You enjoy it a lot, and I think that I have some interesting questions that a lot of the audience hopefully will get some value out of it. And let's start with some basic things that people would like to know and hopefully learn from other people. What kind of mistakes do you see that sellers are making currently when it comes to Amazon PPC specifically?
Definitely, and learning from my own mistakes at the beginning definitely was some of the best lessons. And since then, I think we've seen so many accounts, manage so many brands in the hundreds now, that the sample size we have of data is very hard to match by a brand itself or a seller itself. In terms of, common mistakes, it's been changing over the years. I would like to give the listener, if you're listening to this, something that is more relevant to right now. One of them is we should expect the restock limits to become a little bit more of an obstacle with Amazon. So one of the common mistakes is when either launching a new product or launching a catalog, we now need to be a lot more aware of predict what's going to be the hero SKU and send a good amount of stock for that, but to be a lot more careful with peripherals or accessory products or non-hero SKU products, because we are seeing Amazon changing restock limits up and down very, very often now, even in Q1, right? This is not Q4 anymore.
Just last Monday, we got cut off by 50%. It's crazy.
Yes. So basically taking an approach, and Amazon is doing this because they know their costs are higher. The cost of running their warehouses are higher. They're having a shortage of employees at the warehouses. So they cannot really operate like they have operated in the past. So they have to make these changes so that sellers, we focus on top sellers, right? So focusing on that, sending, being a little bit more conservative on how much stock we're sending. If we can keep some more products at the 3PL's warehouse, or even the freight forwarder can save it for us, we can just have it near here, for example, in the US, ready to replenish more as we start building that sales velocity with Amazon. I think the reason I mentioned this first is for a new seller, a new brand just launching, these can do or break, because you could get burned if you have too many units of slow moving product, and then you run out of stock of the good seller, and then you cannot restock it, and then basically you get stuck. So being a little bit more careful, conservative in terms of the amount of stock that we send to Amazon and the product curation of what we send.
Yeah, it's a big point. I agree with you. And Amazon also trying to push their AWD service, which is their warehousing and distribution centers, which we don't really have a lot of success with it, or a good experience, I would say, lately. You get errors, it's glitchy. We have like 3,000 units just checked in like last week, and we can't even ship them and request them. You get like constant errors. You contact their support, they don't reply. So it's a new thing, and I think it gives somehow advantage to local sellers, I guess, because we're located in the US. I just realized that I saw you last week, and I just realized you're like 30 minutes away, which is amazing. But like people like us as sellers, it's giving us more flexibility, I think, over people that are overseas. Of course, anyone can. It's not a big major advantage, but it's still an advantage. Now, in terms of PPC, I know that you mentioned that the data, for example, that comes with the sponsored display is not the real data. There is overriding of attribution between campaigns. So maybe that's a mistake that people are not, or people can avoid this mistake of looking at the wrong data. Why don't you share a little info about that for people who are not aware of this?
Yes. So now we're entering into the world of attribution, and the challenge here is that everybody's right. Okay, let us think in for a moment. It's all relative, because when it comes to online advertising and online attribution for sales, there's many different rules, right? One rule could be the last click is the click that gets attributed to the sale. Other attribution rules could be the first click, right? So if the first time my ad got clicked, let's say 13 days ago, was for my sponsored product ads, right? For this keyword, it got clicked, person didn't buy, tomorrow came back, clicked another one of my ads. They after, visited the product on the organic listing. Day after they bought, right? On a first click attribution model, it would count as that very first click, the one that gets the sale. The second click wouldn't, right? It would show basically infinite ACOS because there was no sale, right? There's also a linear attribution. There's also a gradual attribution. So when we start to understand these concepts that have existed in online marketing for a while, and then we start questioning, okay, what is Amazon actually doing? Then we start to unravel a lot of interesting things. So Amazon DSP has been, I would say, becoming more popular, right, over time. And the ROAS that they're showing us there, in some cases, can look better than we see in Seller Central. And one of the main reasons is the attribution model they're using is different, right? It's not counting all the other clicks that happen to maybe all my other sponsored product ads. There's a little bit of discrepancy between what Amazon says versus what actually happens versus what people are starting to discover. Because there is something Amazon, and this is way, way advanced, right? For most people listening, this is why they call it the geeks, right? Like us, about these topics. But Amazon released something called Amazon Marketing Services. Amazon Marketing Cloud, AMC. And with these, we can create different rules, right? To see how data gets attributed. We can even, connect this with a website to see how also, how is the complete journey, right? Of from shopper to purchase. Because sometimes they go to the website first, they go to Amazon, then they click an ad, then they get retargeted via DSP. So only when we have the full picture, we know what the real ROAS is. And I'm not going to get into the details here. All I'm going to say is, for a while, we've been in the dark. Also, Amazon DSP, the numbers that we see there, they seem to be the least inclusive of what's happening, of this big, full picture. So, which makes those ROAS, that seem to be really good, in my opinion, to be a little bit more inflated than what they actually are. On the Seller Central side, I think it's a little bit safer. sponsor products, sponsor brands, sponsor video, just because they've been around for such a long time, and they have a much simpler attribution type. So the new sponsor display in Seller Central, that's the one that I'm a little bit careful with, especially the VCPM, which is something we can talk about.
I have one campaign with 2% ACOS, which is no way to have 1 point something. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right. So, I don't want to overwhelm the listener, but just giving you a little bit of an overview there. How actionable this is that I'm sharing? Not much. Just simply be careful. Don't understand that the data could be explained in different ways, and unfortunately, sometimes in a way that is more convenient to the platform.
To the platform, for sure. So if we can take there is still uncertain things we're not aware, we're not sure about. If we can take something actionable, like Daniel said, is just to be aware, just to kind of don't just trust the data like 100% in blind eyes and say like go for it, like there's no tomorrow, and just especially the VCPM, like it just doesn't make sense. This campaign is like spending like $100 generated like I don't know how much, like crazy amount of money. Thank you for sharing that. That's really something that is recent and people can learn from it. When it comes to, I'll continue with the sponsored display. One way to really differentiate yourself, and I think that gives serious sellers and PPC agencies a way or a leg up advantage about other tellers, it's through creatives. Whoever is now, we have the ability to actually not just show our product with a price. We actually have an option to add our logo, a creative, a headline with sponsored display, which I think I love it because it gives me flexibility to create and test a lot of, a lot of creatives and improve my conversion CTR or whatever. But I want to hear from you as an agency. Like you said, you have access to a lot of data, which something that me as an individual seller don't have. So how is your approach to actually testing it, measuring it, and coming up? What is the process to create the creatives, maybe for individual seller?
Yes. So, we've been in this world for a while in the sense of the most effective ads are the ads that are the most personable, right? And, in one side of the spectrum, we have a billboard on the road, right, that says, buy Coca-Cola, right, or drink Coca-Cola. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have, Tomer, like your best friend that goes to your house and says, Tomer, you gotta drink this right now, right? I'm your friend. Buy this, right? That's this continuum is the continuum of how personalized the advertising is, right? And the great thing is that with the internet, we are able to move closer to becoming more personal, right? And in the online marketing world, a lot of the what this refers to is what's called dynamic advertising, right? Dynamic headlines. So to answer your question, now that I said that quick background, what's working best is to segment, targets, whether it is keywords, whether it is products that we're targeting, and then have a custom headline, a custom creative, like an image, right? That represents each of these segments, right? Let me give you an example. If we're selling, let's say, a garlic press, right? Some people call it garlic press. Some people call it garlic crusher, right? Let's say, just for the sake of simplicity, we segment our keywords accordingly, right? And for the segment of keywords that are about garlic press, the headline could be "Looking for a garlic press?" ? Right? And then our custom image can be an image that shows that and has text, right? That also shows garlic press. The other segment, the one for people that choose to search as garlic crusher, the headline would be "Looking for a garlic crusher?" ? Right? Our data has shown that the more personal we are, the more dynamic we make it to match what the person is searching, the better the performance. Now, this opens out unlimited possibilities, right? We could make, if our competitor for our garlic press is, let's say, Apple. Apple comes up with their own garlic press, right? It's beautiful and shiny and polished and all of that, right? We could come up with a custom, if they get enough search volume, we can come up with a headline, we can come up with a creative that is all about Apple, right? And we could say something like, we're not here to press apples, we're here to press garlic, shop Tomer's, kitchen goods, right? Or whatever we call it. So that's just very, very high level, right? So when it comes to the execution of that, then you really end up with many campaigns, right? And if we do an 80-20 approach, we're really just going after those 20% of the keywords that have the most search volume, where we want to be hyper targeted, very, very, make it very dynamic, very personable, competitors included. Usually, no matter which product, there'll be, 3 to 5 direct competitors that are very apples to apples. So those are the ones where you maybe even want to write satire on your headline or something that really evokes, emotion.
Something really specific that to these kind of products. Maybe you target also products around the same amount of price, and then if your price is better, you kind of give a creative talking about the price, like the same solution for a better price. I don't like to, have an offer that is cheaper than the rest in general, but maybe market it as a more premium product, I agree. And that was my next question, how you can actually make it actionable and to an individual seller. And I think by, like you said, focusing on the high volume, on the 20%, it's the way,
And this is we talk about technology too. A lot of tools out there for automation, for basically taking all the thinking away, and there's a place for that. But up until now, I think there's no yet replacement for what human intelligence can do with the creativity, and it takes more work. But these segmentation that I'm mentioning, when applied to all the different campaign types with all different SKUs, so far what I've seen is it outperforms. It's what makes the difference versus what an automation can do. There's more. We talk about the problems that also generates. But I think these, maybe for years, maybe for a while, or forever, perhaps, some people will argue, there will not be a match for what human creativity can do in this regard.
Yeah, I agree. It's I think especially when you spend a lot of money, it's worth the time to invest in manual processes, because every little thing could make a difference between, like, you lose big amount of money or you actually make a huge or much more money using through PPC. My next question would be about day parting. That's something that I asked you when we were sitting for a coffee last week, and want to hear from you. Well, what do you think about day parting, and people can hear your opinion and from your experience too.
Yeah, I would say so. For the ones that are not aware or don't know this concept, day parting, compared to what we've had for the longest time, right, with Amazon. Amazon has been reporting the data one day at a time, right, without differentiating how the people that bought in the morning compared to the people that bought at night, performed, right? It's just been basically the whole day. Day parting is Amazon's basically answer to allowing us to see performance by the hour for our advertising, right? So in theory, it sounds fantastic, right? It sounds fantastic. It sounds like, okay, maybe people in the morning in a work day, right, that are buying a product that is more for the office, probably it will compare better. Maybe products that are more, for leisure, will perform better at night, right, when people are already off work and just shopping. So that's on one hand, right? On the other hand, we also have the cost per click, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a bidding auction. We're competing with all the advertisers at that moment in time, right? So what times of the day are the cost per clicks, the CPC is cheaper versus more expensive, right? And my opinion of it is it's all mixed up, and at the end of the day, it's a little bit of a wash, right? So far as all the data that I've seen showing in the mornings, there is a higher conversion rate, but there is also a higher CPC, right? So we convert higher, but we also pay more per click. Later in the day, conversion rates are a little bit lower, but also the CPCs are a little bit lower, right? So I'll end my answer with saying, in theory, it sounds exciting. Probably there is some potential there. We just don't know yet. The data that we're getting from Amazon is very early signs, but it's not, I would say, anywhere close to allowing marketers, to make, I think, good decisions. There is also a big problem with what I mentioned earlier, which is the attribution problem, with lacking transparency on how that attribution works. Because, what happens if the people that are shopping in the morning that are converting higher are people that are already returning, right? They already clicked. Or what happens if the people that are buying in the evening, they already clicked in the morning and they're clicking again at night, right? So
First
this
impression,
just
you don't know how their first click and how they found you.
It creates a spaghetti of confusion, and without clarity, right, it will not work, right? So probably we will get there. Amazon will probably open up more and more, but we're not there yet. And so because of that, I see it as for lack of a better word, waste of time, waste of focus. There's definitely better. What's the saying? There's many ways to split. I forgot the saying, but I think you get my point. So yeah. We're not there yet.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would look at it as if, for example, you're limited with to test it. So I was sometimes in my career, not just on Amazon, I had assumptions that I thought at one stage or at one point, and then after a while I was testing it and at a different assumption or a different result, and then after a while again. So things could change, and the best way is to actually test it. And at one point of a brand that I sold last year, I was testing the parting, didn't work, then tested, didn't work. And what I was testing is really pausing it at night. That was the test, not really bidding or pausing it during the day. So during the night, the hours that I knew for sure that I'm not barely getting any conversions, I was stopping it. And from a point of budget toward ROI, I saw a good result at the last time that I tested it. So I really think that you should test it, but to be, like you said, because the data is limited, to be very careful with it. But if you don't have any problem with the budget, you want to dominate your niche, you want to really be get as much sales as you get, create sales velocity, you shouldn't probably do that.
It's a big attribution problem. Also, if we do day parting where, let's say, we post ads on every Wednesday, right? That could be a little bit more easier to track, right? If we look at end of the week, right? A weekly block where we run ads every day versus a weekly block where only that Wednesday we didn't run them, right? That will work a little bit better, but also it's not real A/B test. It's not split traffic, so creates also an issue.
Yeah, that's a problem with Amazon. Every day is different. Like it's not a closed environment. It's not a lab, so it's very hard to get conclusions.
Yeah,
but
for a brand listening to this, right? Somebody working at a brand or maybe has their own brand, I would say these little things, they sound good, and they can really, really become a rabbit hole, right? Where I think there is, if we go back to an 80-20 approach, right? Segmenting your campaigns properly, matching creative to each segment, and also matching the product you're selling, right? The right color, the right size properly. These are the things that really have the most impact. And there's a few more, right? But focusing on organic keyword rankings, right, and having a proper strategy. You asked me at the beginning things that common mistakes, right, for this year, or
the boring things that everyone should know they should do. That's what we should focus on, pretty much, right? Not the shiny objects. Yeah.
And I'll add one more thing for this year specifically is it is time now to more than ever to drive traffic from outside Amazon over to Amazon. There's many ways to do this. The one that we're really exploiting a lot is Google Ads to Amazon. The way I if I go into a little bit of a tangent, let me fill in here some of the gaps of what's happening. Right, I see that Amazon right now, after the pandemic, a lot of brands probably saw the big growth numbers from during the pandemic and over ordered inventory, right? So that's one thing. There's a lot of supply in circulation in most niches, right, till today. On the other hand, we don't have to go into detail to talk about the economy, all of that. I know some people say yes, some people say no, but definitely we saw Amazon starting to stabilize, right? Like just from year over year of growth, just starting to slow down, right? So let's say maybe a little bit less demand, right? So we have more supply, we have a little bit less demand. What that's doing is all these sellers just trying to move more product when there's a little bit less buyers. So that's rising the cost per click within Amazon. It's making it more expensive. It used to be that with PPC, you could rank product and maintain your ranking to do what we call sustainability, right? We when we work with clients, we walk them through the process we follow, right? Pre-launch, launch phase, learning phase, growth phase, sustainability phase, profitability phase, right? So there is to go through all these phases, could do it only within Amazon PPC. But now, even if you go very aggressive and your product converts, is not easy to sustain your organic rankings with that alone. You have to supplement, right? Supplement with some traffic coming from the outside. The things that we're doing, Google Ads is showing very promising results. And then the other one, the one that you and I talked about when we're having coffee a lot, is YouTube, right? And product reviews, video content that is sending very qualified, very warm traffic over to your pages, to your listings. So looking at also external, right? That's what I think this year is also going to make a big difference. Not looking out at that, I think is what would be a mistake for sellers, for brands.
Yeah, it's a good point. And what is the best way to really measure it? Are you guys using just attribution, or you have your own kind of link in the middle to give you some extra measurements?
Yeah, Amazon attribution is what works. When it comes to YouTube, what you want to do is you can put in affiliate links or attribution links in those videos. I know some people are putting a pixel me in between to get also that person pixelated. But we're not doing that. You just want to be careful with that. Making sure that doesn't break the Amazon attribution, right? But if you test it and it works, then that's another good option. Lastly, you can also, if you track your YouTube or Instagram Reels, stats on content, you can also see correlate, right? If something maybe goes viral for a day or two, you can also see what kind of lift in sales and sessions you're getting on the Amazon side. But for simplicity's sake, I would say Amazon attribution is the way to go.
Yeah, I will add one more thing that I heard people doing is they referring it to their own website with the top 5, top 10 article, where they also feature some of their competitors too. They put their product at the beginning as number 1. And what it allows them to also measure like their click-through rate within their page comparing to the others. play with it and gain basically through Google Analytics some other more data points that helps them. I didn't try this method yet, but it's in my list to try for sure. So maybe I will share it later on. Yeah, thank you. Good info here. Lastly, I mean, I have more questions, but I don't want to stretch it for a really long, video. How do you measure success of an Amazon FBA campaign? I mean, of course, every campaign or every account product will have different objectives, but what is the most common ones? Like, do people should look at ACOS on ROI, or what kind of metric they should look at, their CTR? Like, what is the most common ones they should look at?
Yes. Yeah, very, very good question. So basically, what are the KPIs, right? What are the right KPIs to define success on Amazon? Yeah. I would separate these into two. We have brands that have already brand awareness. Basically, people are searching the brand already because of social media, because it's an older brand, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have what we call Amazon native brands, right? So they were created on Amazon. There's no brand awareness, right? Here's the thing. KPIs are going to be very similar for both, right? But one is going to have an advantage. The one that has brand awareness is going to have an advantage. But the KPIs should really be number one, tacos, right? Tacos is what percentage of our total revenue on Amazon was ad spend, right? Yeah. So we spent 100, we sold 100K in a month. Then what percentage of that was ad spend during that same period, right? I would say. Yeah.
And by the way, I heard that from few people. Sometimes people get confused, but the lower the number, the better. Some people get confused.
Well, it's Amazon did a curveball on us, right? Because we had ACOS, but then they added ROAS, which is the inverted, metric. Yeah. So ACOS, the lower the better. ROAS, the higher the better. Go figure, right? But for this conversation, let's stick to tacos and ACOS, which is the lower the better. So there is benchmarks that we have built and polished over time. What we consider a mature brand, right? A brand that has gone through all the different phases and is in that sustainability, profitability phase. Now, they could be launching new products and all of that, but at least they have a core business, right? We want to see those brands at around 10% tacos, meaning 10% of their sales is allocated as ad spend, right? That's what we call sustainability, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. There could be a little bit of growth there, right? But really, when it's above 10% tacos, it's what we consider growth mode, right? 12%, 15% is a little bit more what we see. In some marketplaces, usually in Europe, or some niches in the US that are more competitive, like supplements, we want to see 20% tacos is what we call growth mode. And that's if we basically we look at it from the top, we hit that, we can actually see ranking increase, and also it assumes that we're launching products every now and then, right? That we also need to bring all the way through the phases. So that's a little bit of our benchmarks when it comes to that, when it comes to tacos. Now, the better the product, the less tacos we need. That's always going to be there. The second thing is the more brand awareness that exists, right? We can use that to basically buy ourselves a little bit lower tacos, right? Or we can use that to expand more the non-branded side, the generic side, right? Depending on which brand, we talk about the goals and we decide a different strategy, right? So tacos, number one. Number two is obviously organic keyword rankings. That's always been in the top 5 KPI, right? For an Amazon business. At the end of the day, it's a search engine. If people type in and find you, you are already ranked, that's when you're profitable, really. You'll never be profitable if you're always paying for sales. right, with advertising. So organic keyword rankings, that's a very important question. If you're working with somebody in your team that is managing this part, or you're working with an agency, freelancer, number one question should be, are you tracking your keyword rankings, right? Let me give you a couple more. Obviously, profitability is important. What kind of margin you're getting, what kind of revenue. So those are just the fundamentals. One last one I want to add is what percentage of total revenue is ad revenue? Okay.
What percentage of total
revenue is your ad revenue on Amazon? For example, brand is selling $100,000 total revenue, right? PPC plus organic revenue, and their PPC revenue is, let's say, 25,000, right? So 25%. They have 25% of their total revenue is ad revenue, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Here, historically, our benchmark had been that a mature brand will have around 40% of their total revenue is ad revenue, not ad spend, but ad revenue. 60% coming from organic. That we called it before the sweet spot, where we are also sustaining our organic rankings. It also falls in line a little bit with the 10% tackles. More often than not, they both were applicable. But today,
for us, it's more 50-50.
Well, yes, because Amazon has monetized the page even more. They've added more ad placements. Yeah. So we're seeing that sweet spot now is 50-50. And then when we work with a brand that we're launching on Amazon, at the beginning, first month, most of your sales are going to come from ads, 90% or more. But we want to see that number changing month over month, right? Yeah,
that's a good point that I never looked at. I mean, of course, we look at it as a good distribution in the rankings, but didn't really intentionally look at it like you said. So it's a good point.
And here's the thing: we work with brands that they go beyond the sweet spot, and that's not good either. They go, maybe imagine this: 80% of sales coming from organic, 20% of sales coming from ads, right? That's what we call over-optimized. And the reason
maybe why there is a lot of opportunity for them that they don't really show, right?
Leaving money on the table. That's when rankings start to erode over time.
Yeah, exactly. When you see that, it's not healthy. Great info, Daniel, and thank you for sharing all of this. I have one little more question that I didn't plan to ask, but just came while you were speaking, which is about keyword harvesting. So let's say, you have one brand and it has, the campaigns, you have good distribution of total correlation between the organic sales to the PPC sales, let's say 50-50, and the campaigns are in a good ACOS, TACOS. But I think that for us, we see opportunity with search terms that we're not targeting specifically in campaigns. They either come from broad match or auto campaigns, or and sometimes what happens is we take those keywords, adding them into existing campaigns, where either automatically or manually, it doesn't matter. But then those campaigns starting to gain more and more and more and more keywords, which makes a lot of keywords not really reach their potential as far as impressions and clicks. What is the best way to deal with this problem? It's better after specific amount of keywords to open a new campaign or ad group. How you guys deal with this?
Yeah, there's a lot of witchcraft around this topic.
Yeah, a lot of people saying this and that and this, including me. I said a couple of times different things in my channel about this topic.
Yes, I would say, the real answer is we don't know, right? I'll start from that. And the reason we don't know is because there is theories that are, showing evidence, but at the end of the day, it does not come from Amazon, right? It is a black box, right? Now, what are the things that our testing have shown? Number one is to limit a campaign to about, or an ad group to about 200 keywords, right? It seems to be, but it creates problems too because, okay, well, is it because the product is a bestseller, or is it because it's a slow seller that most keywords don't activate, right? So that's one guideline that we follow, right? Another guideline is also, are we indexed? Are we indexed for those keywords? Number one. And second is, are we ranked within? We could be indexed, but we could be ranked past page 7, which means people cannot really find us, right? Unless they use some of the filters on Amazon, right? That
You mean
seems to also
organically
affect-
or PPC?
organically. So now, if you rank on page 8, right, the search results only show up to page 7. So you cannot see the products organically, even though your tracker is showing that you are somewhere in there, right? That you're indexed, right? So that's something else to keep in mind, right? Are you indexed? Are you ranked somewhere in the pages? The other thing is long tail. Long tail is a bit more of that people talk a lot about, but that really has very low impact. Now Amazon is giving us actual search volume for keywords in the search query performance report. And if you go there and spend some time, see a lot of long tail keywords get very little traffic, if at all, right? In fact, most keywords, most sales for a product come from 20 keywords. It's a short list. It's and if you just spend all your efforts on those and you really rank for those, you will be very happy, right? And you wouldn't, and the long tail will take care of itself, right? So there's a lot of myths around this. The most extreme of what you said is 1 keyword per campaign, right? What we found is that works well if you have maybe 5 SKUs, right? But then the moment you start growing your catalog, it becomes unsustainable. The Amazon system, Campaign Manager, doesn't even support it once you go past, I think 500, 1,000 campaigns, right? It's not necessary. We see that as
What do you mean
overkill.
is not supported, like the 500?
It slows down. The data doesn't really cannot really export, and it becomes basically a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also basically it's not really necessary. I think
It's hard to manage, like you said, the 2080. It just makes it like terrible to manage and control.
Yes, and even then, when you, let's say you do go to that extreme, there will still be keywords that don't really activate, right? And here the thing is, it's a black box, right? So what we found, that the best balance we found between keyword activation and a structure, a setup that is scalable, is limiting the campaign to about 200 keywords max. So that's what we do for the accounts we manage.
Perfect. Thank you.
We do throw some single keyword campaigns, but those are for the ones that we actually want
the
to
highest search. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, perfect. I have more questions, but I think that's enough for today. I would love to see you again here in the future. And for those of you interested to learn about about your brand and potentially work with you, how they can find you.
Yeah, of course, we got a website, we got social media, all of that. You probably find me there. But if you're listening to this and you like to connect with me, even if it's to ask a question or you just want to really connect, or you want to ask about what we do, shoot me an email, Daniel@amzclever.com. That's Daniel at AMZ or Z, depending on where in the world you're from. Clever, CLEVER.com. I try to get back to everybody, and we'd love to. Always looking to connect with great people. So if you think you're that great person to meet, shoot me an email.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. Again, I appreciate you coming over here and sharing this valuable information. Like I said earlier, we hope to see you again in the future. Best of luck in 2023. And personally, I hope to see you soon as well. And thank you again.
Summer, this was fun.
Thanks.